Hey guys, so if you're able to see me and my audio is clearly audible to you, just send a hi on the chats so that we can start. Okay, so I think I am live. So we'll get started as we are already late. So today we'll talk about deployment of the projects. Deployment in the sense that when you develop your project, you have developed your app, it should be available to the users as well. So how can they access your project or the build which you have, the app which you have built? So we'll discuss about it today. We'll be using 2-3 techniques of deployment. One of them is Netlify. You can check it on your Google search. Netlify. Sorry, it's Netlify. Yeah. So what it does is, it links to your GitHub repository where you have pushed your code, automatically picks the code from there, build the production level code, production level build, and deploy it on their service. So it's very easy to use. We'll quickly get started with this. So let me just show you, see, as it shows that major companies are using it, like Facebook, Nike, and Kubernetes. So we'll just quickly start with login in this. So we'll use GitHub. Okay, so I'll quickly write my username there, password. Okay, so I'm logged in, I guess. Okay. So you can see that already app is deployed, and go ahead and delete that. Okay, so you can see that nothing is visible here, no site is deployed. This is the default screen which you will also see. Okay, after you have linked your account with the GitHub, you can go to the build and pick this option, new site from Git. So it'll give you options of picking up the repository from 3 various platforms, GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. So as we are working on GitHub, we'll go to GitHub. And it'll show you all your repos here. Okay, so I'll go and search my repo. So okay, this is my repo which we'll be using today. I'll click OK. And you can see some basic configurations are available here. So it says build command yarn build. So Netlify is intelligent enough to identify that it's a React project or Node project. So it knows how to build it. So for building the React, we need React npm build or yarn build. And this is the directory in which it will store the build project. So let me show you the project quickly in GitHub. Okay. Is it visible to you guys? Should I increase the font size or not? Okay, so this is the project which I have built today only. You can see that this has a basic README documentation which is generated by the React by default. You can see that it is written yarn build here. Build the app for production to the build folder. So as you can see that it is using the yarn build to build the project, and it's stored in the build directory as it's mentioned in the documentation. The build is minified and file name includes the hashes. The app is ready to be deployed. So it's a small package which is can be used by the users. It loads very quickly. You will see the changes when you use the build and the development versions of your app. Okay, you can see that it's a basic project. when you run it on your machine, it shows a simple React app. So we'll go ahead and click on deploy site. Okay, now you can see that there are 3 steps here mentioned. So it's on the first step, deploying the site. Go and click there. You'll see a terminal window. You'll see all the various steps which is going through. Okay, so now you can see that it has installed the code and it's installing the packages. It will take 2 or 3 minutes to do so. Okay, so you can see that the build is complete and it's running the site. Okay, the site is live. When you see this, it's all good. Okay, now we'll go back to the deployment web page. Okay, now you can see that we'll go to the overview. So you can, customize your domain. You can set your domain name here so that it can redirect to that. But we don't have a domain name for this tutorial. We'll simply go and use the okay. So you can see that our app is deployed. This is the URL generated by the Netlify. And this is a very basic app which is generated by create React app by default, and it is deployed. You can refresh that and you can see that it's working for us. Now what's the use of Netlify and why are we using it, and how it helps a developer in deploying their apps. So it uses a technique called as continuous integration and continuous deployment. When you go and search for it, CI/CD, I'm sorry, you'll see what it is. It's a very famous technique used by DevOps engineers in these days. So what it does is basically takes it. Let me open my Docker container. Yeah. Okay, so we'll create our React app here. I'll just zoom in a bit. Okay. So first we start by creating a React app. Then we do the changes and build our project on it. Then we push it on our GitHub. What GitHub does it has some APIs integrated into it. So the Netlify is always listening to the new pushes or the new commits which a developer has done to the directory or repository. It will trigger the Netlify to build the app. The Netlify will pick up the project as we have seen. It will go into the deployment part, copy the code which was newly updated, build the project, and update the URL with the newer one. So after that, if the build is successful, it will publish it to the new URL, and the users can from there access the new site by using the HTTP request. But if it fails, it will send a failed command on the GitHub console, which you can see from the commits. If you go to the commit section and pushes, it'll just show up here because I have not logged in, so it will not showing it. But when you are pushing a new commit, it automatically show that the new commit was built successfully and has been deployed if everything goes well. Okay, so this was a very basic tutorial about publishing your project or deploying your project online. As I have told you that it's continuous integration. That means if you build a new version or you have changed some features and push it to your GitHub repository, automatically the newer version will be picked up from there. The trigger will automatically call the Netlify and ask it to deploy the newer version. So if you have any doubts till now, you can ask on the comment section. I have Jay with me. He'll help you there with the comments. Okay. So if you have any questions, just ping it on the chat section and then we can proceed. Okay, let me just show you by changing some code in the code section so that you can see that it's continuously deploying it. We'll go to the src and index.js file. We'll keep a chain. Okay, not index.js. Yes. Am I audible? Okay. src. So we'll go into the app.js file. You can see that this is the app which is showing up right here. Very basic app. We'll just make a few changes there and let's see if it does the trick. We'll go to the edit part. Okay, so it says learn React. I'll change it to something else. Hello guys. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so I'll commit the change. Okay, so you can see that the change has been made. Okay. Okay, now you can see that as soon as we have published our commit, it has fetched the newer code. You can see that it's building here. This was currently changed and it has started the deployment. Again, it's fetching the newer code, newer commits, and it will build it again, and it sees the site is live. So just we'll go there and refresh it. Okay, so it says that, hey guys, welcome to the stream. Hope so this was pretty much clear to you guys. So you can see that it had built the React app much quicker as to the previous version because it has used the cached version of the previous build. It has just imported the newer changes, build the app, and because of the caching, it was a much quicker process. Okay. So we'll discuss the second approach, which is widely used these days. This is for a beginner level approach where you can quickly get started by deploying your app and use the CI/CD built in the Netlify. The next approach is using Docker. So most of you must have heard about Docker. Docker is nothing but creating containers of your app. Now, what is container? We'll discuss about that in a few moments. But what it does is isolate all the code and the environment in which you were working, pick that up and put it into a box. That box can be placed in a VM and it will work exactly how it was working on your machine. So you must have heard about that meme which says it works on my machine but it's failing on others. But to solve that issue, Docker was introduced. We'll see how it works. So let me first introduce you to the workflow of how it works. So again, we have a local repository or the project on which we were working. We'll push it to the GitHub. The GitHub repository will call the API trigger, the Travis. Now what is Travis? So I'll again open a new tab and show you Travis CI. Okay, so it says test and deploy with confidence. Now it's just a feature which is inbuilt in Netlify, but in the Docker we have to implement it separately. It does fetch the code, run some tests, build it to the production version, and deploy it to the site. So I'll show you the diagram here. So it will fetch the code from the GitHub repository, and it will build the app, run some tests, and check if it's okay or not. After the test, if it's okay, so my bad. So if the test has failed, it will go to the GitHub console and say that your build was not working properly or the build has some problem, you can change that. If it has passed the test, it will go to your cloud and deploy it there. You can use AWS or Google Cloud. By the way, all the students get $100 free or subscription to your AWS, and you get $300 free subscription for GCP when you register for the first time. Both of them require credit cards, but the transaction of 1 rupee will be deducted from your account and given back to you in 24 hours. So that's just for verification, so you can use a credit card safely. But please keep a check on your limits. If you cross your limit, it will start generating the bills. Okay, so this is the approach. So let's discuss Docker in detail. So as discussed, it's just a container. Now we'll discuss the container, let's forget that. But we'll first of all see how an operating system works. So you can see that here is an operating system. It's working over the hardware. There is some communication between them through system calls. Over the operating system, processes are running. This is the ideal case which we have seen in our laptops or desktop. This is what is running. And some of you guys must have heard about dual boot. In this, we have two operating systems simultaneously, we can say that flashed on our system. We can choose one of them and use them accordingly. Just like I have Windows installed and Ubuntu installed, so I can use either of them at one time. So if I like to play games, I'll switch to Windows. If I want to work on some project, I'll switch back to the Ubuntu, and the hardware will remain the same. Okay, now some of you must have heard about the concept of virtualization. So how does it works? The hardware is same, but we have a layer of Hyper-V. It's a technology which enable us to use virtualization. You can read more about it on Wikipedia. This technology had changed how we work and how our apps are deployed, because virtualization plays an important part in cloud. You can see that, you can read all the stuff here in detail, but this is all the scope is out of this right now. So let me switch back to my draw.io. Okay, fine. So you can see that hardware is at the lowermost level. We have Hyper-V layer, which is inbuilt in our VMware or VirtualBox. Over that, we use operating systems simultaneously together. So you can see that we are using Windows as well as Ubuntu with the help of Hyper-V. Different processes are running on different machines, and we can switch between both of them. And it is recommended by most of the developers these days to get started with using a different operating system because of this Hyper-V which we are using here. Okay, so I hope the virtualization is clear to you guys. If you have any questions in this, please ping it on the chat section. I'll clear it, because next part is a little bit difficult and hard to understand. Okay, so now just let's jump to the Docker part. Okay, how it's different from virtualization or dual boot. You can see that the lowermost part remains the same. We have a operating system, parent operating system working on the top of hardware level, and it has some processes running in it. Now you can see there are two blue boxes named as container 1 and container 2. Now these are the two Docker containers running independently on the operating system 1. They have their own OS and network layer. Okay, but these two OS should use the same kernel. Like you can't use Windows over Linux. This can't be Linux because it has a different kernel than the Windows. Mac and Linux can be used because both of them are Unix based and share same kernel almost. And but you can't use Windows with Linux here. You need a WSL. Now, what is a WSL? It is Windows subsystem for Linux. This was introduced last year. This helps us to use Docker with it because it's like imitating the Linux kernel into your Windows kernel. Okay, so you can go and download this, enable it, then you can use this Docker inside your Windows. But it's a quite of cumbersome process. So we'll be using Mac OS or Linux as our parent OS, and you can use any Linux or Unix based OS over this system. Okay, so what is the advantage of this is when I go to my deployment part, when I give it to the person who is in charge of deploying it, he just pick it up from here and place it in the cloud section. Wait a second. Okay, so you can see that the person in charge will make a copy of this container and deploy it on the cloud from where the users can access this container. Now, the advantage of this is that you don't need to configure your machine for specifically deploying this because it has its own OS, it has its own network, so nothing to worry about that. No setting up of environment variables, no setting up of libraries or importing libraries, installing various other stuff. It just picks it up and places it here. So that's it. You don't need to worry about anything else. We'll do this in practice and see how it works. So this is all about Docker. This containerization is done with help of Docker. You can go and search for Docker. You can see a basic information about it. We'll go to get started with Docker. So it say download desktop and take a tutorial. So you can do that, or we can go and search install Docker. Okay, you'll see various links, but just go to the official website. Okay, so it shows you the various platform which it supports. You can go and pick one of your favorite operating system which you are working on. So I'm working on Ubuntu. I'll go and pick an Ubuntu. It'll show you the installation guide. Just need to copy it and paste it in the terminal. You can see it says just do all this stuff and you'll get started with this. Okay, so just pick up your architecture accordingly and complete the installation. It's a difficult part to get started and install this, but after that everything is buttery smooth. So once you have done with your Docker installation, just go and run this, and if you see a hello world written on your terminal, everything is good. So I'll just quickly start my Ubuntu VM. So I am in my Google Cloud and just go to the console part. Okay, so I have some projects created in here. So you can see Alexa, DSC deployment. So all the projects are deployed here. This is the official DSC account, which we use for deploying our website and all those things and performing the machine learning part. You can see there is a lot of compute power going on. Okay, so we'll go to the compute engine VM instance. You can do this on your machine, but I prefer to do it on the cloud because it provides some little bit of, my laptop is not doesn't have so much power, so I use the cloud to do all these stuffs. Let's wait till the SSH keys are transferred and we get the connection with the terminal. Till then, you can just ask any doubt if you have on the chat. Okay. So this is an Ubuntu environment, Ubuntu 18, and you can see there are some of the projects which are already inside the app. So you can see there is a live stream repository. We'll just increase the font size. Okay, I hope so it's visible to everyone. We'll go to the live stream directory, and you can see it's a basic React project. It has a Docker file, we'll talk about it later. It has a readme JSON file, public and src folder, yarn.log. Okay, so let me just run it here. We'll go npm build. I'm sorry, npm start. Maybe start. So you can see that the development server has started, and in a short while you'll see a URL showing that it's working on your local host. Okay, now you can see that it's on HTTP localhost 3000 port. We'll just quickly copy the external IP of our VM. And paste it in the URL section. Copy, paste, and go to the 3000 port and click enter. So if everything is fine, it will show the React app. Yeah, you can see that the React app is working, and this is coming from my virtual machine, which is on the GCP. It's working on here. I have exposed all the ports to the internet. That's why I'm able to work with it. If you are having any problem, just go and check your firewall and see that your all ports are exposed to internet. And if I can show you the settings, yeah, firewall rules, app engine. So see, you can see the IP ranges star means everyone can ping to this VM and fetch data. So you make sure that you have this thing, and okay, let's jump back to the VM. Okay, so I'll close this development server, and when you refresh it, it should not show up, yeah, because the development server is closed. Okay, now let's discuss the Docker file, which you can see here. What it is actually. First of all, let us check that Docker is working or not. So I'll say Docker with a small d version. Okay, so you can see that Docker is built, is ready to use. So let's first discuss some of the Docker commands, which are very basic to get started. When you run your Docker hello world example, let me get that. Okay, so this is Docker, and I'll just copy this. Copy. So you can see it says unable to find image hello world latest locally. So it says that there is no image called hello world latest. It will be pulling it from the repository. Now what is repository? We'll discuss that also. Okay, it says these are some of the SHA, no need to worry about this. Status download newer image for hello world. So it has downloaded the newer image and you see this hello from Docker. As soon as you see this, that means your Docker is completely fine and up and working. Now let us check the images which it has fetched. Okay, you may or may not have to use sudo, but my installation was such that I have to use sudo every time I access Docker. Let's say images, and it'll show me some images here. Okay, yeah. Okay, you'll see repository. Let me do that again. So let's click. Yeah, you'll see repository tag image ID created and size. This is the official website DSC which was containerized and it is deployed on Netlify and on GCP as well. You can see this is an Nginx image, node image, and hello world. Okay, so hello world image, it was the latest. These are the tags which tells us what version it is. So it has pulled the latest version of the hello world app. It has an image ID which we can use to refer to the image which we have just pulled from the repository, and it shows the size here. Okay, it's a very small app. As you can see, it does nothing, just prints hello world on our terminal, and node has a size of 113 MB, and the official website has a size of 356 MB. Okay, now you can see how to see the images. Let us see the containers running on our machine. Docker ps. So currently there are no containers running on our machine, and if I do docker ps -a, it'll show me. Okay, so I have to use sudo. So it shows me all the containers which ran or are currently running. So you can see that. Okay, so you can see that the hello world container ran 2 minutes ago, exited 0, means the exit code was 0, means the exit of the app was not a forceful, or there were no errors while exiting, and it has a funny name also. I don't know why. Okay, so this is how you look for the images, current containers running. So let me just go back here. So this is a container. So I hope you know what is a container, but you don't know what an image is. So we'll go to Docker image or Docker Hub basically. Docker Hub is just like GitHub, where all the containers, not containers actually, but images are uploaded. Okay. Do I need to log in? Okay, you can see that some of my images are uploaded here. One is Django, one is Flask app, and it's a testing repository. When I go here and search for hello world, okay, this is the repository which we just pulled from there. It has nothing but just a basic hello world printing on the terminal. You can see others also have uploaded some of the images. These are the username and their repository name. We'll just go and look for Ubuntu. Okay, now this is the official image of Ubuntu. Now image is something, you can imagine it as a prototype or blueprint which will be pulled and built on your machine. Okay, so let me just open the Docker file. Okay, this file tells the Docker how to build your application, how to build the container. So it says from node Alpine. Now this is the image which is used as the parent image. So we'll just go here and search node. Okay, this is the official image of Node.js. You can see there are thousands of, not thousands actually, but tons of tags which shows various versions or various architecture on which they are working. Okay, so we are using something called as Node Alpine. Node Alpine. Now Alpine is a lightweight Linux kernel. It's based on Debian, so we'll be using it. We are not using Ubuntu because the size of the app crosses 1 GB. We don't want all the default libraries which are coming with the Ubuntu. So we'll just use Alpine. It's very basic. It doesn't have any libraries pre-installed. It just has the node. Okay, now you can see the command says work directory /app. Now what is it? It will create an /app in your /app directory in your container. Now container, because it has its own operating system, it has its own file systems as well. So it will be making a directory inside that operating system, which we'll be using to build our project and keep our code there. The next command is copy. Now copy does what it does, it takes the file or folder from the host machine or the local machine on which I am working and place it inside the container. So it says packet.json and dot. Now this is the file which is on my machine. Let me just quickly close this and show you the ls. Okay, this is the file which I need to copy and place it inside my Docker container. What I'll do is, no, packet.json. I'll pick it from my local machine and dot. It says the current directory. This dot means current directory. Current directory is app. Okay, so it will pick it up from here and place it inside the app directory. Okay, it's the work directory is same as mkdir. Copy is same as the copy we use in our terminal. Fine. After we have completed the package.json file and copied it in the app work directory, we'll run npm install. Now, if you do this npm install, you'll see that it'll start fetching the libraries which are mentioned in the package.json file. I'll show you how the package.json file looks. Okay, since I have my node modules, I'll stop this and show you the package.json file. So you can see it has tons of libraries mentioned here with their versions. See, it uses React and the version is 16.1.2.0. It uses React DOM, which is again a version 16.12.0, and React scripts. These are required for building and deploying your projects. Then it says start, build, test, and inject. These are shortcuts to call React scripts to build the project or start the development server. So when I say yarn start, it's equivalent to calling this React script start. It's just a shortcut which is very helpful for a developer, and some basic configurations which are necessary to start the project, and it tells how the project is configured. So I'll quickly go to the Docker file. So it will install all the libraries and packages and save them inside the app directory. After the packages are installed, it will copy rest of the code. So it says dot. Dot means the current directory on the local machine. It will pick it everything from there and place inside the current directory which we are working inside the container. Okay, After the code and everything has been copied to the container, we'll start the run start. No, actually it should not be run. It should be CMD. We'll discuss what CMD is in a while. So this file will be used by Docker to build an image. So you can get confused because we are already using an image and we are building an image. So actually this image is called as the base image. It's already defined by someone. They have already configured the node and have used Alpine. They must have written a Docker file similar to this and have configured it properly in that way and have pushed it to the directory on the Docker hub. We are using their image and building over them. So it's like, using someone else's project and building over it. So I'll just quickly build this and show you how does it looks. So sudo docker, if I can type that correctly, build dot. So the dot represents that we are using the Docker file from the current directory, which is in this same directory. You can see when I did the ls, the Docker file is in the same directory as the live stream. So we are using a dot. Build is used to tell the Docker daemon that we are building an image, and we'll just hit an enter there. So it's sending some of the context to Docker daemon. You can see it is using cache because I had already built the image. It saves a lot of time when you're using the caching. So we'll go quickly through this. So it says from node module Alpine. When I say sudo docker images, you can see there is something called as node here. So this is the official node.js image, and the tag says Alpine because we are using the Alpine version, and it was fetched 3 weeks ago, and the size is 113 MB. So the image is already stored in my system. We are using that, and okay, so we are using the same image which is already stored in my local machine. Now it runs the work directory /app command. Now this command will create an app directory. It copies the package.json file into the current working directory, runs npm install, and copies the rest of the code. This cmd start we'll discuss it in a while. So it says successfully built cc, and this is the build id, the new image id, which you can see is right here. This is this is the image which we had just built. The repository name is none because we never specified the name of it. To specify the name, just go to build and say -t. I'll say Jaskirat /live_stream, and the tag is latest, and dot to mention the Docker file, and hit enter. Okay, so now when I say sudo docker images, you can see my repository name Jaskirat livestream, and the tag is latest, and it was built just about a minute ago. Okay, now we have successfully created this image. Now we have to make our container from this image. So how to do that? We'll just go to sudo docker run, and we'll specify the name of the image, which is live stream, and hit enter. Okay, now you can see that it has started the script, React script start, and you can see it's starting the development server. So you can see that I never mentioned any command here. So by default, when we were discussing CMD, so you can see, you saw that it had written npm start. So by default, it will take those as the argument for the entry point of this container. Whenever I run it, it will by default run that command, and start the development server. So you can see the development is up, the server is up, and we can access it. Let's check if it is working or not. Okay, so it should work. It is not working. So there is a catch. I'll just close this. Okay, so as I had mentioned, that Docker containers have their own network. They have their own network and their own operating system. So we need to expose it to the outer world so that people can access it and can see our application. We have not exposed the network, or our network is isolated from the internet. So to expose that, we'll just go and say sudo docker run. Again, we'll say -p. It says the port which needs to be exposed to the internet. So the port which is running inside is 3000, and we'll map it to the 3000 on our machine as well. So this means the port in the port of our local machine, and the number mentioned after the colon is the port which is inside the Docker machine. So in the Docker machine, we are running it on localhost 3000. So we'll map it to the localhost of the VM, which is running on the cloud. I know it can get quite confusing sometimes, but you need to understand that this is the 3000 which is mentioned before the colon is the localhost port, and this 3000 is the port which is inside the Docker container. Okay. After that, we'll say the name of the image, which is live stream, and that's it. It will run it again and expose the port, and I think it should run this time. Let's see. In meanwhile, you can post your doubts, and just tell me if you are not comfortable, or I am proceeding quite quickly so that I can bring down my pace. So let us check this. Okay, so you can see now this app is running perfectly, and now this app is running on our Docker container, which has been mapped to the 3000 port on the local machine, which is being accessed here. So this 3000 is the local machine. The local machine is then mapped to the 3000 inside the Docker container. Isn't that simple? So we'll just quickly close this. Okay, so now you know how to create a container, how to create an image, or how to deploy it on Netlify. Okay, so we have just created the image and not deployed it anywhere. Now this is my machine which is running. This is not the correct way to deploy your Docker containers. We'll be seeing some methods which are being used in the industry. But before that, let me just open my diagram here. Okay, so we'll be pushing the code to GitHub. The GitHub will then call the APIs and trigger the Travis, and it'll deploy it on the clouds. But we'll be using a different approach known as Kubernetes. Okay. So what is Kubernetes? Kubernetes is something which we call as managing tool for our Docker containers. So in the real world, we are not working with just one Docker container. We are working with maybe 10 or 100 of Docker containers, so that to manage the load of the upcoming traffic. So like this, you can see here, we have 4 containers running simultaneously. Both the containers are inside a pod, and this whole thing makes one node. We'll discuss that in detail, what a node and what a pod is. But the most important thing is that we have four containers running simultaneously. So suppose that one of the container is jammed with the traffic. The Kubernetes will automatically send the traffic to the container 2 and container 1 and container 2 of the other pod. It has a load balancer built in it. What a load balancer is, you can go and quickly search it. So what is a load balancing? So you can just go through this page and it will get your basics clear about load balancing. It's a technique in which we redirect the traffic to different versions of the app. Not different versions, actually the same versions running simultaneously, as you can see in this case. These are the four containers of same version running simultaneously, and the traffic is diverted towards them. So a pod is similar to a cluster of 2 or 3 containers. These 2 containers are of same version. Maybe we can call it as version 1, and this also version 1. And these can be of different version 2 and version 2. So these two makes 2 different pod. They can have n number of different containers. But the basic idea is that they have similar versions or they have similar properties. The pod has similar containers working together, and 2 different pods combined together makes a node, which is managed by the Kubernetes. The Kubernetes will help it to manage the containers. Like if the one of the container crashes or one of your container has gone down, it will automatically restart it and make sure that it is live, and it will keep on help you to manage your containers in a proper fashion. Okay, so we'll start with the Kubernetes. For that you need something called as gcloud. So to install gcloud, just go to your browser and say gcloud. Okay, so gcloud CLI version. Okay, for Linux. So it uses Python as its programming language. So you can install the tar file or the zip file according to your platform and extract it with the help of this command, and then install it with the help of this command here. After the installation, we need a Google Cloud init to initialize the project. Let me just refer to my notes. Okay, so one of my senior has just pointed out that most of the first years are not familiar with the pro package or the various perks which are enabled by the education pack. So I'll just go and open my GitHub profile. No, don't leave the site. Okay, let me see. Okay, so you can see it says pro here. Now, if you go to GitHub and look for the subscriptions, you can see there is a free plan and there is a pro plan, then there is a team plan, and there is an enterprise version as well. So by default, when you create your account, you are enrolled into the free plan. But as we are studying in a university and we have a .edu account, we can enable the pro plan with the help of something known as GitHub student account. Okay, so this is a pack where you can go and enable your education pack, just go and click on the get the app button. Okay, so it's showing that I am already a developer because I also already have a pro plan, and it what it does, it verifies every year that you are still a student or not. So till you are in the university, you will have this pro plan, and there are various benefits of being a pro or having this package. I'll just show you what are the various features which come with it. So you can see all these tools are enabled along with this GitHub education pack. There are a lot of them, you may need them while you're working or you're developing something. Like you have AWS Educate. This is the platform where you can learn AWS. Then you have Microsoft Azure. They provide free credits to work on their cloud machines. Then you have .tech domain. You can easily purchase a .tech domain and deploy your site there. It's very helpful to get a domain, free of cost. And then we have Heroku. Heroku is similar to Netlify, where you can deploy your backend. Then you have Git Kraken. It is a tool which is used to manage Git repositories, and there are tons of other perks which are included in this package. So just go and explore this GitHub education pack. You just need to verify that you are using that .edu email, and you'll become a pro. Okay, so let's get back to the so you can see that I am already have gcloud installed in my machine. Okay, so okay, wait a second. So first of all, we need to check that we have kubectl installed. Now, what is kubectl? Kubectl is known as Kubernetes control, from where we can deploy anything on the Kubernetes cluster. So to check that, just say gcloud and say components list. It will list all the components, and you can see kubectl is installed. If it's not installed, just write gcloud components install and the component ID which is mentioned here, which is kubectl in our case. So when you hit enter, it will automatically install kubectl into your machine, and we can verify that with kubectl version. Okay, somehow it's not working. Oh, I'm sorry, it's gcloud components update off. Yes. Okay, it shows me some errors. We'll be installing the gcloud on the newer VM so that you can also get the gist of how to install it and get started with it. Somehow it's taking some time to connect with the VM. I'll just create a new instance quickly using I'll be using Ubuntu and LTS version. The disk size should be 20 GB. Okay, select allow all traffic. And the region should be Mumbai. We'll name it as live stream. Okay, so create. So it will take some time to create the new VM. Okay, so it has created one for us. Let's quickly go and install the various things required. So you can see that we have created a new VM. I'm sorry. This is and it's a fresh VM. We don't have anything inside our home directory as well. Let me just resize it. Okay, so the first thing we need is gcloud. We'll install it with help of this link. Copy that, paste it here. So it will download the tar file for us. This should not take much time. Yeah. Okay, so as we can see, there is a tar file there, and we'll extract that file. So So it's extracting the file for us. Okay. Next we need to do is install the app. Go inside. The part is by default. Okay, so it has installed gcloud. You can see its auto completion is working. That means we are good to go. Just we'll again see the components installed in it. So you can see a lot of components are installed, but you can't find kubectl anywhere. So we need to install it. Oh, okay, it's here. Let me resize it. So it says update available, so just will update it. Components update kubectl. Yes. Looks like we have some problem here, and let me try to solve that. I'll quickly copy this. Paste it in the Somehow it's not working. It shows that kubectl is already installed and it needs an update, but when I call it, it's not showing it. Okay, so that's why I hate live sessions. Okay, but I hope you have got an idea of how to deploy it on Netlify and how to create your containers. So what I was going to do is that just create an kube cluster here, this Kubernetes cluster. When you go to your cloud, okay, compute engine here, and you click on Kubernetes engine, it says clusters. So by default, you'll see no cluster up and running here. So it says create a cluster. So what we were going to do was creating a cluster and deploying a container to it with the help of the terminal. But since things are not working, we are unable to do that. So after the cluster was created, you can see that when you go into your app engine, a couple of more instances will be created here. Not app engine, pardon that, compute engine. You can it's just showing the instance one, but after that you'll see 2-3 more VMs created here, which are created by the kubectl to host those containers. And by default it only deploys one containers. As we discussed, you can deploy more than one, and you can deploy more than one pod. By default, it will create only one node, one pod, and one container. This can be controlled with help of a special file called YAML file, YML file. So it's a type of file which gives instruction to the kubectl or Docker to manage the containers. We'll cover this in some other live stream. Hope that things work on that day. Seems that we had a short disconnection due to OBS failing. Okay, if anyone has any doubt, please clarify it right now. Or you can just go and join our Slack channel. It's DSC THAPAR hyphen GSPATIALA Patiala .slack.com. Just go there and enter your email ID and password and sign up here and join the Slack community. You can ping me there, or you can join the community and post your questions there. Anyone from our team will answer your questions. So if the link is not visible, I'll just copy it. The link is also posted inside the description. So this is the link. Just go there and join the community, and you'll get the notifications about the upcoming lectures there as well. So as we had created a container of React, you can create a container of anything. That can be a backend, that can be something like your machine learning models as well, which can fetch data continuously or listen to the calls and update themselves accordingly. You can host your website, your backend, your databases, anything, whichever things required to be made public or need to be brought to the internet can be containerized and published on your Docker and published on your cloud with help of Kubernetes. Okay, so because things didn't work as they were expected to, so we have to end our session here. We'll continue from here on some other day. I'll make sure that things are working by then. Okay, so next live session will be most probably on machine learning. It will be taken by Mankaran, and hope so that you all show the love on that day as well and join us and learn machine learning with Mankaran. Okay, so this is the Jaskiras Singh signing off. Hope you enjoy the session. Bye.